Hello, my name is Ken Stapleton and I am the Senior Environmental Assessor at the Veterinary Medicines Directorate. This presentation covers current considerations regarding environmental risk assessments at the VMD, and this is both from an authorisations and policy perspective. In terms of the specific content of this presentation, I will provide a brief update on how the existing environmental risk assessment process may be affected by any changes to the legislation. I will also discuss two current topics of interest pertaining to the environment, namely the use of zinc oxide as a veterinary medicine in piglets, and also the ongoing interest in flea and tick products used to treat companion animals. Finally, I will briefly outline some other work related to protecting the environment associated with the VMD's support of the UK Government's 25-year Environment Plan. Those unfamiliar with the existing system for evaluating the environmental impact from using veterinary medicines, it is noted that an environmental risk assessment is required for all application types. The assessment is concerned with the active substance only. It is made up of an exposure assessment called Phase 1, which predicts the levels of compound getting into the environment. And if this exposure assessment suggests significant exposure of the environment, a Phase 2 risk assessment is required based on data on environmental fate and effects. The output of this process is a classical risk characterization that compares exposure with hazard, and if exposure is determined to be less than the level resulting in a hazard being reached, then the risk to the environment is not considered as significant. If it is shown that exposure is greater than the effect concentration, then there is the potential for a risk to the environment. Practical mitigation measures are used, where possible, to reduce the risk, and the conclusion of the environmental impact assessment is always factored into the risk-benefit assessment, which is used to decide whether a product can be authorised or not. The risk-benefit assessment is a comparison of the overall health benefits for the target animal against the potential risk pertaining to the user, the consumer, and the environment. And it is the case that applications have been refused on the grounds of environmental concerns in the past. This slide is for reference and depicts the actual process of Phase 1 and Phase 2 assessments. The take-home message here is that it is a fairly prescriptive process that can be extremely involving. It follows guidelines 6 and 38 from the International Council for Harmonisation of Technical Requirements for Registration of Veterinary Medicinal Products, shortened to VICH. As it stands, we will continue to follow the process just described until any changes to the UK legislation have been ratified. Neither the date nor the content of the new legislation have been set at the time of this presentation. However, the VMD are continuing to work on the proposed amendments to the GB Veterinary Medicines Regulations, and we will be holding a series of virtual sessions starting in December to share the key principles of our proposals for changes to the veterinary regulations and seek early input from stakeholders. Once the feedback has been considered, a formal public consultation will follow, which will include the proposed changes to the veterinary regulations in detail, an assessment of the impact of those changes and any supporting guidance. This will provide the opportunity for all stakeholders to express their views. The environmental concerns surrounding flea and tick products was first brought to our attention following the restrictions of use of certain pesticides that were used as plant protection products. As some of these compounds were also used in veterinary medicines, that was the initial link that triggered our interest. In addition, since 2016, we have been in discussions with the Environment Agency about their monitoring of neonicotinoids in UK rivers. As a result, the VMD fully acknowledges that neonicotinoids are found in UK rivers, and this requires further consideration as there are veterinary medicines that contain these and similar substances. Having said that, the current evidence does not allow us to distinguish the source of these substances with any certainty, as they have multiple uses and there may be a legacy from previous uses of them, for example as plant protection products. Furthermore, the impact and consequences of these substances on river ecology are little studied. Toxicity is intrinsically linked to bioavailability and other fate characteristics such as photodegradation and absorption, and these factors could significantly impact on the actual effects in the real-life situation. These compounds may bind or may break down, we just do not know, so therefore we need further information on this, and ourselves and other stakeholders are currently trying to fill these data gaps. Due to the association with veterinary medicines, the VMD commissioned research in 2019. The aim of this research is to investigate the potential environmental exposure pathways for dog and cat flea and tick products on the aquatic environment, and this is due to be completed in March 2023. However, it is important to provide balance, as the negative association with veterinary medicines has not been ascertained with robust science, and our current standpoint is that it is not necessary to change the existing regulatory controls put on these types of products. However, if compelling evidence to the contrary becomes available, then this will be taken into consideration. It is also important to note that any decisions made regarding these products must also factor in that they have significant benefits on animal health. The Environment Agency monitoring now includes data up until March 2021, so it is a priority to evaluate this information. Also, the Veterinary Products Committee, which advises DEFRA on veterinary medicinal products, has set up a task group on ectoparasiticides in the environment, and they have made a recent statement in the Vet Record on this topic, outlining the importance of appropriate prescribing of these products and increased education and awareness on the matter by pet owners and veterinary professionals. From the outset, we have had extremely good collaboration with relevant stakeholders, particularly the Environment Agency, and the continued collaboration with relevant stakeholders to unravel the evidence is imperative to inform any future policy decisions and interventions. The second topic of interest relates to zinc oxide use in piglets. In March 2017, the European Medicines Agency reached a final conclusion that the benefit risk for veterinary medicines containing zinc oxide for oral administration to piglets is negative. Subsequently, the European Commission issued a decision in June 2017 requiring all member states to withdraw the marketing authorizations for the relevant zinc oxide products within 5 years, and this equates to the 26th of June 2022. Regarding the specific concerns for the environment, it was concluded that there is a potential environmental issue related to the aquatic compartment, with acidic, sandy, well-drained soils being most vulnerable. In short, zinc elicits a toxic response in aquatic life that is significant. The assessment also concluded that the long-term continual use of zinc-containing veterinary medicines will result in a gradual net input of zinc to the environment, and it will only be a matter of time before risks are present in all environmental compartments if manure from pigs treated with veterinary medicines containing zinc oxide is applied to land. It was also suggested that the environmental risks identified by the yearly accumulation of zinc in soil from the spreading of manure in agricultural land cannot be controlled with risk mitigation measures. However, at the time of the assessment, it was recognised that there were many uncertainties with the provided data. Therefore, it was necessary to use a conservative approach when determining many of the parameters used in the modelling. It is customary to use a precautionary approach in the absence of data, but if the level of conservatism becomes significantly out with the real-life use of zinc, then the findings may be questioned, especially if new relevant data are made available to fill the gaps in knowledge. Specifically in terms of the data gaps, there was no consideration of bioavailability. And yet bioavailability is important because you may have a compound in the environment, but if it is bound or attached to another substance, it may mean that it is not readily available to cause harm in the environment. And it is well established that environmental conditions greatly affect the bioavailability of zinc. Furthermore, zinc as an inorganic compound does not fit well in our current system, which is geared more to organic compounds that break down over time. Subsequently, the VMD commissioned research, which started in 2019 to address the highlighted data gaps, and if possible to improve the environmental exposure modelling of zinc following its use as a medicated feed for piglets. Without going into too much detail here, this research has resulted in the development of an updated exposure model with a more robust assessment of parameters and increased relevance to the UK pig farming situation. These data are still undergoing evaluation and are ongoing, and it is hoped that these data and findings will be published in due course. And finally, to the last part of the presentation, in which we consider the UK government's 25-year environment plan and consider how the VMD can support it. Well, the VMD are aware of the comprehensive set of indicators describing the environmental change that relate to the 10 goals within the 25-year plan. And we acknowledge that biodiversity is a key aspect of this. We are currently investigating how we can promote biodiversity, if possible, through our authorisation process or whether it could be from other means. Environmental considerations are being factored into the VMD's science strategy, and we acknowledge that the VMD must be ready to embrace the increasing awareness of the potential impact of medicines on the environment and respond to these challenges and form collaborative partnerships with stakeholders to ensure development in these areas. One such partnership that we are currently working on is a national group of key stakeholders that encompass pharmaceuticals in the environment. Now, all this work is extremely interesting and quite far-reaching, but we need to be realistic in our goals and appreciate that possible future directions are afforded to us according to current and potential new veterinary medicine regulations. And that just leaves me to say thanks for listening, and please continue to provide the VMD with your queries on any aspects of the environmental risk assessment process that you may have.